Nothing on Chuffed can go without incident.
Top of the marina.
After getting Chuff prepared in the water, we were finally able to take her out for a test sail. The plan was to raise the sails and run the engine and shake out any kinks we could find. After making our way through the calm channels inside the breakwater, we encountered stronger winds and rougher seas than we had anticipated, which reminded us all just how out of practice we were with sailing.
We're currently having a lazy jack issue where they're kind of wrapping in the sail. So we will learn lessons from this. Luckily we got 2 boys on board checking it out for us. Trying again. We will see. Nothing on Chuffed can go without incident. Now we have to sail back to the marina. Lucky we have Andreas with us. I'm so glad. But she is sailing really nicely, and good news. Yeah, we are. We finally got the sails out, and then as we lowered the noise of the motor, loaded into idle, Jim could hear a funny ticking noise. And when I went down to check, the ticking noise was actually the 2 pieces of metal from the 2 parts of the exhaust elbow going bang, 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 and there was just water everywhere. So now we are going to try and sail back in, at least into the bay before the marina, and then make a plan from there. It's hard for me when that happens not to like be thinking of like now everything I have to do for that, and I'm like, no, for now I need to focus on like just get the boat into a bay and then dig it up. But my mind's like, call the defender, see if they can do this. I'm like, shut up, shut up. Alright, so basically breakwater is here, so we're just coming up alongside, and then we're going to try and tack our way in, and then the marina's going to come rescue us and tow us into the marina. Sails are down. We're attached to Ronnie's speedboat heading into the marina. That was super stressful. We didn't film much obviously, but yeah, it was a bit stressful coming in, but we made it into the bay. this isn't a cold beer, it's just water. We made it back, we're on the dock. I have mixed feelings of like anxiety hormones, like cortisol leaving my body, / feeling a bit sad, but also happy because we're back now, so it's all like the scary part's over. But that was very typical. I was just saying I like almost felt like a sense of relief when that happened, because I knew something would not go right, and then it was like, oh well, that's the thing that wasn't gonna go right. But I didn't really think it was gonna go that wrong. But we're back at the dock, so yeah. I saw a turtle again. It just came up and down. So it's now 2 days post test sale. We've had a bit of a chance to reflect and think about it all. It was definitely a bummer, I'm not going to lie. Like, we expected things not to go 100% smoothly. We've been, you know, on the hard for 18 months, and, you know, you try and fix everything you think needs to be fixed. We knew there'd be some things, but, you know, we thought it'd be like the lazy jacks got a bit tangled in the sails. Oh yes, okay, you know, that makes sense. We've not used them before. We need to tighten them a bit or loosen them a bit, you know. That's kind of what we were expecting. We weren't expecting the exhaust manifold elbow to completely snap in half. So for those of you who don't know what part of the engine that is, basically it is where the exhaust comes out of, which on a sailboat includes salt water, so to help cool it. So the salt water from the cooling system there was just spewing into the boat, and it's quite a lot of salt water. So when I actually first got downstairs, when we noticed, Jim heard that the engine didn't sound quite right, and when I came downstairs and looked, because it's also not super easy to hear the engine, so, you know, yes, we obviously checked that water was coming out of the exhaust when we were underway, but of course you don't check it every 5 seconds because we're sailing and putting up sails, and you can't hear it because of the rush of the wind and the rush of the waves. And anyway, Jim noticed it sounded abnormal. We got downstairs, I got downstairs, and there was like about this much water in the bilge at the back, and I was like, oh god, like the shaft was like underwater on the inside of the boat, and I was like, ah! Anyway, so he shut down the engine. The bilge pump was already going, thankfully, which was why it wasn't getting any higher, but then it really, yeah, got it under control. But we're very grateful to have Andreas on board, because he was able to keep steering the boat into the wind. He's a very, very good sailor, which was really nice for us, because we obviously had to make it past that breakwater, which is only like, I think it's like 200 feet in width, so you do need to sail well because there's waves breaking and it's very shallow and there's rocks and things. While Jim was doing all of the ropes, and I was able then to keep checking downstairs, making sure, you know, getting the water out of the boat, and also making sure there was no other leaks, because obviously we've had a lot of welding done, and, you know, we want to make sure that's the only source of the water, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, and basically now we are essentially in the position of looking for parts. So that's Jim coming back now, just recording. So yeah, so we're now kind of looking at, one, whether we order the part, or two, if we get one fabricated here, just depending on how long everything's going to take. So that's our mission now, is to get this part. We know we're going to be delayed at least 7 days, because we were hoping to leave in around kind of 6 days, and we definitely won't even have the part by then. So yeah, we've been, you know, add 7 days onto our original departure date probably. And yeah, so it was a bummer, but, you know, as everyone's kind of been saying, it's that's why you do the test sail, is so that these things break and that you notice them on the test sail, instead of halfway to Lutulco, where we would have been in a position where the Tawanapek winds might start blowing again and we can't come or go. Yeah, so it's, Jim's trying to walk really quietly around the boat because it's so squeaky when you walk on the floorboards. So yeah, so it's like, it was good it happened now, still a major bummer, but overall we feel okay about it, you know, as okay as we can feel. It can be frustrating sometimes, as I'm sure you can imagine, after doing so much work on the boat. Like, the one thing you don't fix or replace is the thing that breaks, of course. But yeah, but we are feeling good about it. We know it's just one of those things, right? We've just got to replace it, and then inevitably something else eventually will not work as well as it should, and when you got to replace that, and it's just how it is owning a boat. So yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, thank you all for getting us to this point. I hope you enjoyed the footage. Good news is, as you saw, Chuffed was sailing very nicely. Our top speed was like 8 knots coming down a wave. But she was sitting at like 5.5, like very comfortably, and we weren't, because we were sailing out of necessity and somewhat in a stress situation, because we were like, oh God, the boat is not going to be doing what she's meant to. We hadn't really set the sails perfectly, and in particular, we tacked before we had a chance to move one of the cars, and so you might notice the sails kind of billowing quite a bit, but by then we weren't in a position. We would have had to tack again to be able to move that car safely. And obviously in the situation where you're just trying to get home, we were like, let's just leave that be. But so she wasn't even sailing at her full potential, but she was sailing very nicely. So yeah, all right, hope you're staying very chuffed.
We would like to say a huge thank you to everyone who donated to help us replace the engine. Just to clarify, this was just the first engine issue we encountered and not the reason we were replacing Janet. But more on that in a future episode. Until then, stay chuffed, everybody.